So welcome for all of you. It's what I'd like you to do if you do not want your name up, or if you do not want to be on Facebook, or sometimes we post these in YouTube, then please just take your name off and shut your video so you won't be seen on this. So I would like to begin by just a short bit first of how all this started with TTouch for you. And in 1967, I sent from an advertisement in the San Francisco Chronicle for this little booklet. It's mimeographed pages, and it was like $5, and it was advertised as the first astrological psychoanalysis of you, your portrait in the stars, by Fritzi Armstrong. I'd never done that before. And what it said is that in my lifetime, I would develop a form of communication that would spread around the world. And in order to do so, I would have to learn to trust my intuition. And I immediately went to our library in our home and pulled down a book. I just let my hand reach up and pulled down a book. And in this book, it said that intuition is unlearned knowledge. Now, that is a very different explanation from the scientific explanation of intuition that we're all used to. And for me, how I see that is it's just listening for information and trusting what comes out of the quantum field. That's new information, is this quantum field. All information is there, and it's totally proven, from quantum science. Now, what has happened, to think, okay, a form of communication that will spread around the world. I had no idea what that was. And so what's happened in the meantime is the fact that we now have taught this work for horses, dogs, and people in 37 countries. Not, sometimes it's only dogs, sometimes it's people, sometimes it's horses. And what is really interesting for me, I happened, to enroll in a 4-year course at the Humanistic Psychology Institute in 1975, and with Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais. And whoever would think that that would lead to TTouch, because the Feldenkrais work is so beautiful and so effective, and it's very different. And I'm not going to go into the whole explanation now, because it had to do with a new finding on the second day of my training, a new way of working with horses. And that's been told in different places, so I'm not going to tell it again, but it was remarkable, because we all who work with horses grew up, and still many people think you have to repeat and repeat and repeat in order for a horse to learn. And that's not our experience. So I did the Feldenkrais work, which was amazing. And in the second year of the class, what led to what we're doing today was this book that Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais recommended this as reading. And it's Man on His Nature by Sir Charles Sherrington. And Sir Charles Sherrington was a Nobel Prize winner for the work with photons, light in the cells. And that's what we are going to work with our bodies. That's what we do. That's why we're able to reduce pain and fear just by working on ourselves. Now, what intrigued me and what changed my course of my life in this book is his amazing concept This is a Nobel Prize winner. This is not woo-woo science. It's very real. The idea that every cell in our body knows its function in the body. And when I read that, I thought, whoa, hold on a minute. We had seen Moshe Feldenkrais do miracles of healing people and just by moving the body in these very gentle ways that would activate new neural pathways to the brain that would allow us new learning. And that was his big passion, was that we could enhance our learning. So, and that's what, when he made that statement in the second day of the course, that's when I said, wait a minute, if that's true for horses, that by moving the body gently, the body, the head, the legs, in new ways, that we would enhance our capacity for learning. I thought that's got to be true for a horse. And it's amazing because in one session, in the very first time that I went out, this is the second day of this 4-year training, I went out and I worked on a 16-year-old mare that had never been ridden. She was a brood mare that the man had just bought. And so anyway, in one session, she, instead of running and being chased to catch every day, she came to the gate for the first time, 16 years old. So anyway, that led me to this total intrigue. And then came along Sherrington at the end of that first training, the 12-week training. We did 12 weeks of summer for 4 years. And I started exploring and seeing the body as a collection of cells with light in the cells. And that is such a different way. So when you're talking about, I forget who it was who said that they had just had a really big injury, and with the circular TTouches, they're able to reduce the pain. That is what we've been doing for years and years. And I could never, like, I wanted to know, wait a minute, how is this possible? How is it that by doing what we call a TTouch heart hug on your heart center here, just like moving 1 1/4 circle, that you can bring yourself out of that panicked state, when you're really afraid or you're really stressed, that you can just put your hands on your chest. And I'd like you to follow me. Try this. Imagine the face of a clock here. And that is one of the huge gifts of this work, is that by imagining the face of a clock right here on the chest, that you can do it anywhere, but it's different here, this feeling, this of emotion that we get here. So you place this, you actually take this imaginary clock off the wall and you place it here. So you're looking at it from the outside. And then you catch wherever you can hold your hand softly, like cupped one over the other, or you can use the side of your hand. It doesn't matter. Just one hand over the other in any way, any like left, right, under, doesn't matter. It's up to you. Take a deep breath, smile, and very softly, very light contact, just enough contact like to move the skin. And start at our imaginary 6. 9 is to the right shoulder, 12 toward the chin, and 3 toward the left shoulder. First to the right, from 6, a little curve, like an arc. Deep breath, 9, 12, 3, 6, and stop up at 9. Take a deep breath and smile. And smile from thinking of something for which you're very grateful. Just stop here a moment and get quiet and think of something for which you're very grateful. It can be as simple as the fact that we all can be here together. We all have homes, or we would not be here together. The simplest things. Manchmal, so often we forget these things. Okay, now we're going to go in the other direction, because many people really prefer to the right, and others much prefer to the left in the counterclockwise. So I'm catching, and I'm just catching lightly under here. And I'm going from 6, and just think of the 6 o'clock up to the 3, 12, and it's just a tiny circle I'm making. 9, 6, back up to the 3. Now let's do it once more in the preferred direction. Deep breath in through your nose and long and softly out through your lips. Now, what that does, and we've done studies to see what's happening in the brain, it takes you from a place of control when you're stressed or worried or like anxious about anything or fearful. It takes you from the control of the sympathetic nervous system, that part of the brain, the amygdala, the part of the brain that controls our emotions. Same thing with your cats, your dogs, and your horses. And it puts us in the state of the parasympathetic. And therefore, we use the forebrain. And from this place, we can best learn and heal, because it puts us in heart coherence. And for those of you who are really finding it's interesting, check out Heart Math Institute, because they, for years, more than 25 years now, they have been studying this concept of activating your heart coherence. Now, what I'd like to just take a moment now, and oops, I have to go back to my gallery, and down at the bottom of your screen, look at reactions and press on it, and you'll see the bottom one is raise your hand. Now, what I'd like to ask a question, first of all, who of you has used this TTouch Heart Hug to help yourself when you were in a state of stress that we have every day and want to calm down? Or yes, so I'm just going to have a few of you share. So if you, Jonna Gershiter, could you unmute yourself first?
Hi, Linda.
Hi.
I've used this a lot. I'm dealing with long haul COVID and a lot of crazy symptoms, and I am using this so much to get myself to calm down from emotional, physical, spiritual, everything. And it works like a charm.
So how did you learn about it for the long haul COVID?
How did I learn that I had it?
No, how did you learn about the heart hug?
Because of you.
I mean, through video.
Because I studied with you during the pandemic, and so that's where I was really learning it. So
fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, we've had so much feedback on this for long haul. I just wondered, because I made a YouTube for long haul COVID for the use of TTouch to help. So, Jonna, where are you located?
Well, I'm right now in St. Thomas.
Oh,
so,
that's a nice place to be.
Yeah,
okay.
Escaping New York for a while. So yeah.
Okay, thanks. So
Thank
Carol
you.
Wilson, who's also one of our longtime wonderful practitioners for horses. Hi.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning, good day. Yes, I recently had cataract surgery and waiting to go into surgery. I was a little nervous, so I used Heart Hug and it was really fascinating. I calmed down almost immediately. And I had a couple other emotional responses later after the surgery. And again, I used Heart Hug to help, and it really did help calm me down. It was really a lovely, lovely tool to have access to. So thank you.
And Carol, let me ask you, did you use TTouch around your eye?
I've been doing TTouch around, like not touching my eye, but in the air, just above it to try to help heal. So
Yep.
yeah, other suggestions are of course welcome.
Okay, so I'm just going to start and see, I've also had cataract surgery.
Mhm.
And thank heaven, because I turned out, because I had to wait so long because of COVID, that I developed macular degeneration. And it was said that you couldn't do cataract surgery on macular. But I came to Florida to have it done, and you can. And the fact is, what Carol's doing is in the air, it's
Mhm.
very effective. Now, you can also TTouch with the lightest touch, like the one touch all around, and breathe into it. Just breathe and smile. Now, the reason you all make some notes, because you won't remember this, the reason you smile, the smile activates the feel-good hormone, the serotonin. And when you're touching your eye after you've had surgery, if you don't realize how simple the surgery is, and mine was filmed, and I really should do a session for you all to see how simple it is. I went out to dinner with my doctor right after the surgery, like within an hour. So, but we don't know that. We don't hear enough about how it is. So, Carol, what I would suggest is the lightest TTouch, like and if you feel, now maybe you'll start here, farther away, and then work all around it. And you just just work very close all around here. Now, what your message is for all of you, it's, why the heck does this work? What I finally found out after searching for the reason that we can reduce our fear and pain for years, I finally, through our Zoom sessions that we do every Tuesday, come to the absolute realization, and it's based on this comment by Sir Charles Sherrington, this idea that every cell knows their function in the body. So it's like the 1 1/4 circle. It's like taking a key and opening a door that leads us into the phenomenal intelligence and consciousness in every cell in our body. And it's really interesting in this little book, Uncommon Prayer, by Ruth Miller. There's on page 23, there's a statement that says that many scientists call this consciousness or intelligence in every cell in the body. They just call it consciousness or intelligence. And what's so interesting is the rest of the world calls this God or divine or source or great spirit. And this is why it's like a homeopathic proving. You don't have to know this, but man, when you realize that this body that carries our soul around has this divine intelligence in every cell in the body. And this, right now, we're having a big so it's not a study, it is like a study on why this 1.25 works. And the thing that is so interesting is that that is the same 1.25 form, the spiral, that is in all of nature, including in our DNA. So, like, I obviously get really excited about this. So, Carol, play with this and send me an email and just see. And sometimes you have to, start way away. Start like Carol did for any kind of pain, if it's painful and you're not about it, and then with the lightest possible TTouch.
Great.
And that would be like a number 1 out of 10. I'm going to tell you, I want to tell you all this a little bit now. So when I talk about the pressure of the TTouches, you know what I'm talking about. So we have 9 elements to learn this work. And the first element is this basic moving the tissue in 1.25 circles. And bringing in, now this is just pretty new. I mean, it's only been a couple of years since I've realized, wait a minute, when we smile, we activate that feel-good hormone. And then the other thing is, with this really light 1 touch, or maybe up 1 and 2 touch, that has been proven by a 2,000 person study by the actually paid for by the US government with the Massage Association, 2,000 people. And they did the study believing that deep work on the body, like deep massage, would activate the most oxytocin. But actually, that's not what happened. And it's written in, what did I do with the other book? Oh my God, I just had my sister's. Well, that's kind of silly. What I'm looking for is Robin and Mandy's book called TTouch for You. Okay, I just had it here. Anyway, maybe Mandy, I think I saw you come in. If you could hold it up after, I'd really appreciate that. In that book is written this study. And what it showed is that light contact with the body activates the most oxytocin. And oxytocin has been called by Dr. Bruce Lipton the trust hormone. So we start to trust in our bodies. We start to trust in ourselves with these lighter TTouches. Now, we have 1 to 10 TTouch. How come? Because we have 10, all the way to 10? Because normally, like, you'd be using a 1 around the eye and like off the eye, like Carol did, or off the eye. And you can also do it from a distance, but then of course there's no pressures. Okay, why we have 1 to 10? If you love deep work on the body, deep massage, you will be getting a 9 or 10 or more. And the thing that we normally use to talk to the cells, to support the amazing ability of our cells to heal, our bodies to heal themselves. That's all we're doing. This is not magic. It's not healing any more than any child can do. Everybody can do. So how do you get the 1 pressure? I want to teach you this first. So what you do is support your elbow, because if you're reaching and doing TTouch on yourself, you'll hold your breath slightly, and it disconnects you from the flow of the earth. I just feel the breath of Mother Earth coming up, like through all my cells. And depending upon what book you read, it says 50 to 100 trillion cells. It's a lot of cells, right? Every cell in the body, this is totally proven scientifically, is a reflection of the entire universe. That's a miracle. We're miracles, you all. It's this divine intelligence in every cell in your body. So I to get your one, you hold, support your elbow, put your thumb gently on your cheek, and then with, like, I generally use my forefinger in the beginning to explore, and I move the eyelid in the gentlest contact that I can have with, and actually move the tissue. Just, it's a feather light. And smile, to activate that serotonin, because if you've had surgery and you've never done this stuff on your eyes, it's a little scary. But actually, when I wore contacts at one point, I did this even over contacts. So that's our one pressure. Now, that's what I recommend whenever you have acute pain, a one pressure, or possibly even a half. And I mean, that's like barely not touching it. Or if it hurts like heck, don't touch it. Do this off the body. That's our one. Now, I want to show you a three, because most of this work we do 2, 3, sometimes 4. There are exceptions for people who physically work hard, or maybe through COVID is shut down. You won't feel that. And if somebody doesn't feel it, we have to use a deeper pressure at first. And I might only do it for a few TTouches, but I want them to understand. I want them to be able to feel it and then back off. Now, in principle, anyway, I don't want to give too much information. You can't hold this all. So now let's get the 3 pressure. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 pressure. So to do that, now find your cheekbone. It's just this, feel the bone, actually feel the protrudence of the bone here. Yeah, hello, cheekbone. Greet your cheekbone, you all. Now, I look at my fingers are curved, and I find the cheekbone, and I do this 1 1/4 circles, like this. So I can feel the bone all the way around this imaginary clock. Smile and try it. Now, if you just sit there and watch, you won't get much out of this. You want to really try it. And if you don't like it, come off your body. And if that's even scary, because if you've had something go wrong in your body, like from scary, some kind of life-threatening surgery, you can't even use your fingers off like this. I turn my fingers and I just move this amazing molecules in the air around us. I move that. We can also do this from a distance. You don't have to be with your dogs or your horse or your other animals. You can do this in a distance. So that gives you a sense of what I'm talking about here. And I'll go on, I'll bring in other things about these 9 elements as we hear other stories. But first of all, before we take another heart hug story, I would like to know if anybody has any questions about what I just said. If it's unclear, if you'd like to understand it a little better. So I'm going to put us back in gallery view and go to the bottom to reactions. And if you have a question about it, and listen, you all, we in this work love skeptical questions, because if you have never had the experience of stopping your fear or you're reducing your pain, who would believe it, right? So Marnie, we've got 5 rows now here, so I need help seeing everybody. So does anybody?
Yeah, you have a couple of hands up.
Yeah, and some of them were up For those who have your hands up to share the heart hug story, let's make sure they're different. Can you see any other?
Some of them put their hands back down, I think.
Right, they did, but so we've got Tovi. So do you have a question about what I just said about the pressure?
Well, not so much the pressure. I get the pressure, but I wonder about the speed.
Okay. So
Because years
that-
ago, I was
Yeah.
fast at everything. And as I got older, I noticed I've slowed right down.
that's really important, because that's in the first element is the TTouch, the 1 1/4 circle. The second is the pressure, and the third is the tempo. How fast or slow? Oops, I'll go back to this speaker view. How fast or slow do you move in the circle, in a quarter? And so the fact is, if a person is stressed or anxious, you won't want to go slow. So same thing when I'm working with an animal. I'll go a little fast just for a few seconds. And that's a 1 second pressure. And the way we've tried and practiced this over the years is like 1 1,000, 1 1,000, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 1 1,000, 2 1,000. That's a 2 second circle. And it's pretty interesting how helpful it is. Now I'm going to do a 3, 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. So I go 1, 2, and 3 second circles. Now, what we've found, in most cases, not always, but in most cases, for any like trauma, if I broke my wrist a few years ago, and oh my God, I had to touch it, but I was touching it like a half a pressure and as fast as I could. Now my sister Robin, she can touch, she said, a break, although I don't know that she's had a break, but something really painful, she can do it slowly. So see what works for you. But for me, I know I have to touch it, because I know that will absolutely stop the pain. And I've done that on somebody's knee for as much as 30 minutes, just that fast, because they couldn't touch it. And this was before we were doing it in the air. Today, I would start in the air with the back of my fingers. Not even, why? Because that's energy coming at you. And what do I mean by that? Because in my training with Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais, we were never allowed to use the word energy, because he was a scientist and it wasn't explainable in those days. Now with quantum science, it's absolutely explainable. And I love one of Greg Braden's books called The Spontaneous Healing of Belief, where he says, energy, you all think of this, is every thought we have, every emotion we have, every feeling we have, and every belief that we have. And of course, every word that we speak. And this is really important, I believe, to our lives, because that means we can really influence this phenomenal divine intelligence in every cell in our body. Because when we find that we can release the fear, then that allows the communication between the cells. And in this book, I should have pulled these out before, but here are these 2 books I'm talking about. They've had major influence in my life and in this work. The first was The Spontaneous Healing of Belief by Greg Braden. And this is Shattering the Paradigms of False Limits that we can help ourselves. And this book is by Dr. Bruce Lipton. It's The Spontaneous Healing. Spontaneous Evolution. And in it, there's a whole chapter, a fascinating chapter on the development of our cells and the fact that, and this is really important for you to look down at yourself and realize that every cell is in communication. It's amazing when you think of this. And when there's fear or pain or stress or tension, we hold our breath and we're overworked and we can't slow down. It's that inhibits the communication between the cells. And by this slowing down, that's where like these 2-second circles with pause, that 2-second circles with the pause gives us the greatest connection, I believe, from my experience, the greatest connection to that amazing intelligence in the cells, and that it gives us also with the pause. And this is where there's in the Tellington TTouch community library that I talked about that you can join for $9.99. There is a wonderful interview that my sister Robin Hood did with Sally Morgan. And Sally, I'm just doing these like 2-second circles, and you could be just doing this and following me. We all can do like 2 things at once, right? Sally was asked by the Upledger Foundation to develop a cranial sacral work for animals, and she is a therapist for humans and for animals, and she's been a TTouch practitioner for 25 years. And so what she says is that this pause and just staying present, it's not going away, it's like just really quieting your mind. And how I quiet my mind, I simply focus on the connection around the face of this imaginary clock. I can't meditate. I've never been able to meditate, but that to me is a meditation that takes me into this wonder that we are. So just know that by being together on this Zoom session, and this is something I find is a miracle, the energy of that gives your cells, your body, hope. And we're all connected at the cellular level. That's what's so interesting. Okay, so does that answer your question about tempo? Experiment with it. And like with the 1-second circles, I don't do the pauses. No, I'm just, and then as I start to do the 2 seconds, I like to do a few, the 2-second circles, and then pause and take a deep breath. I'm going to give you another piece of information about this. I'm going to remind you again of the idea that the light TTouch activates the most oxytocin, but the deep, for the light pressure, but the deep pressure activated in this study that I talked about, the most pressure, the most amount of cortisol, the stress hormone. And there was only a small amount of the feel-good hormone, the serotonin, activated. So let's go back now. I want another, I'm going to do another heart hug story, and then, yeah, and I'm going to also open it to any of you who have dealt with anything else in your body. Let's do one heart hug, and then I want to tell you, I'm actually going to show you a couple of videos of me, a few minutes working on my body, so you see what's going on. Marnie, who's Tovi? Did you have a chance? No, you didn't yet. So Tovi, if you tell us about your heart hug situation.
It was during a clinic with you in Hawaii that I learned the heart hug. And we were in a room of just beautiful people. And it was amazing. I still to this day, it's so simple, but how it just releases any stress and tension. And it just starts my days like that. And that's also where I learned, because your book had just been released the year that I was there on for health practitioners, TTouch for humans through health practitioners. And I bought that book. So I was able to do that on a friend who was struggling with the cancer treatments, and gave her tremendous relief with the ears. And also I learned at that clinic doing it from a distance. And I had a tremendous opportunity to do it on a horse that couldn't be touched. And we started with the llama from a distance, and he'd been injured. And when I would get near his injured leg, he would just say, "Don't you dare touch that leg." So he was feeling it even from 3 feet away. It was just an amazing experience. But the heart hug was fantastic. Mhm.
Well, thank you. It's lovely to see you again. Boy, that was amazing, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
In Hawaii. So I want to show you what here are all my books in English. And I'm so totally blessed to have books in 16 languages on TTouch. So this is the book that Toby is talking about. It's TTouch for Healthcare. And it comes with a video of how to do the TTouch. It's 2 hours and about 30 minutes, the video. Great. So I'm going to play a couple of and if you have other questions, write them down for yourselves or put them in the chat. And Marnie, if you can watch the chat, but I want to show you now. I'm going to screen share. Make sure I had this. There we are. Yeah. Screen share. Okay. Now, I'm going to take questions on this after, and you can hear this. Just a moment. I'm going to show you another possibility for self-help for what happened to me with, this is my arm that the humerus had a compound fracture here, and this is still subluxated, you can feel the bone, but I was working out really hard in the pool, twirling in a very different position than movement than I'd done before, and boy, this bone was really aching, like it's hardly ever done since I broke it. And so I went in, and first of all, I just found where, like with the pads of my fingers like this, found out where it's the most sensitive, and I worked a little around, a little away from that, and then all around it, and you know. And by away, I mean like around the area, not in that case, it felt better to go in on it than and actually TTouch it. And I was using quite just a really light pressure, but I went like several inches away. Notice I'm smiling because I'm thinking about talking to the cells. And when I smile, it activates the feel-good hormone, the serotonin, and I visualize the amazing wisdom in the cells, the intelligence of the cells, for activating that communication and ideal function of the cells. There were times that maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 actual touches when I was using a 6 pressure, which is a lot. And then I would back off to maybe a 4, 3 to 4. And I did this a total of probably 3 minutes, possibly, and no more pain in the bone. And you can do this too. 1 1/4 circles, and talk to the cells and visualize just supporting that and reactivating that communication between the cells. Enjoy the process. So are there any particular questions about that? Because I'm going to show you one more of my knee injury and how I came to the TTouch that we call the elephant seal. Let's see. Get
Oh.
my gallery. Marnie, can you see?
Well, there's some in the chat, and then Toby and Yona have had their hand up, but
I think they did. I think they didn't take them down. So
I'm sorry?
go
Oh.
to the chat. What? Sorry.
Okay. One is, do you use the 1 second circle versus this 2 second circle? One is, where do you put your elbow?
Where do you put your elbow?
Yeah,
In this case, because I wasn't working up on my face, I was working on my, wait a minute, I've got to get, why am I not going to speaker view? Okay, so in the case of when I'm working up on the, when I'm working up on my eyes or my face, then I want to have the elbow supported. But in this case, I had my elbow against my body, and both arms were against, and I was using it like this. And maybe I'll just. And I remember this really well. In this case, I was doing a pause after every TTouch, and I was really focusing on feeling all the way around it. And, you know, since then, I have to tell you all, I don't know about you, but I often wind up with, pain here or there. And, you know, our tendency is to ignore it. You don't have to ignore it. Just go in and talk to it. And we are literally, I mean, talking only a few minutes, except like what I keep doing it until the pain stops. And I just want to put this caveat in here. I should have done this in the beginning. TTouch is never a replacement for medical help. If you have a pain, you've done something, man, you cannot, boy, it just keeps bothering you. You want to get the best help that you can. Zoar, is that Moreno? Hi. Can you find it?
Hi. First of all, Linda, it's a real pleasure meeting you. I see that you suffered you broke your shoulder, like you said, if I'm not mistaken. I've had a bunch of stuff, but recently, in May, my husband and I were in a car accident, and in December, I underwent cervical surgery in my spine. So I'm trying to heal, and it hurts, you know, obviously. I'm still healing. It's only been a month, more or less. So I'm afraid of pain, as it's normal. It's a fear. I'm a human being. But like in terms of the pressure, obviously, and the position of the hand, like I want to be able to like heal. I was operated in the front of the neck and in the back. In the back, I know that I have to have, obviously, my husband probably do it the way that you're showing us, like from afar. But the pain is a deterrent for me. But if I don't push through the pain, I won't be able to heal myself. So can you help me?
I will say my belief is that you don't have to have pain to have gain.
No. Okay.
It's a belief.
Okay.
So thank you. This is a really important question, because if you, because you've had surgery there, It's
Mm-hmm.
terrifying to get
It
near
is.
it. Don't
It
get,
is.
don't start there at all.
Okay.
You have to get your body to trust yourself, trust you, that you're not going to hurt it. And
Mhm.
so what I suggest doing, begin with the heart hug, but with the lightest contact. Just like I wore this horse today because horses are what it was a horse that started me with this TTouch. I didn't
Mhm.
explain that part. It's after my Feldenkrais training. So look, you can just take your fingers and with the lightest touch. How is
Mhm.
that? And you should all try this. Like it's like you can use the form of your hands any way that intrigues you or
Mhm.
feels safe. Now, just how is that? Can you fix your screen so I can actually see your fingers moving?
Okay.
And generally, I say keep contact with the thumb, but don't do it.
Okay.
It's way too much. So because wherever you do TTouch on yourself, no matter how far away it is from that
Mhm.
surgery,
Mhm.
your cells think if you do a deeper work somewhere else, oh my God, she's going to do that there. I mean, seriously. So you have to gain the trust of
Okay.
yourself, of your body. So you do the tiniest 1 1/4 circle. Now, if that's scary,
Mhm.
let's see. Where could you do TTouch on yourself that might not put you?
Well, this is the thing. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, so I underwent a bilateral mastectomy, and I've had already 4 surgeries. So the last 2 years have been a lot for my body, I'd say. So I've had two. So yeah, it's a lot. So my body's like, wait, I need a break.
Your body doesn't want contact. No, I'll tell you. And in the case of cancer, it's life-threatening. We think, we believe. Now, the
Mhm.
cancer cure is amazing now, but that's what we think. Okay. So you can't even start on your body. I've had, the first time I ever realized this, I had a woman in the class who's actually a practitioner. It was her 6th training for dogs. And
Mhm.
I asked her, we were doing something, I don't know what it was. And she started to cry and she said she couldn't do it. I think it might have even been a heart touch. She couldn't touch herself. And I said, oh, interesting. Have you ever had life-threatening surgery? Well, like 8 or 9 years before, she had, I don't even want to describe to you. Actually, you don't want to hear it. She had major surgery and she was healed. And so she was still alive. But the problem was she could not touch her own body, not anywhere. And I said, you have to gain the trust. Your cells, your intelligence of your cells has to learn to touch you. So how far out would you have to come with your hands? Like how many inches off the body would you have to come where your cells will say, okay, you can do a circle there. Huh? And she started a good 14 inches off. And I didn't even have her use what we call a clouded leopard. This part of the fingers moved with a big, like a big pawn.
Mhm.
That's the clouded
Okay.
leopard. Couldn't do that. She had to turn her fingers around so they weren't facing her.
Mhm.
She couldn't feel it. And she turned around and she worked with it. And in that first session, she was able to get maybe 3 inches closer. We were working on scars. Actually, now I remember what we were doing. We were working on scars. And that's how far. And so over the week, during the week, she was able to get, so she could finally start TTouching around the scar with the back of the fingers. And that's one of the back of the fingernails like this. This is the baby chip baby chimp. And so you have to get to trust yourself. So I'd start working, not even with the finger pads, just there, and exploring how far, and ask your body, well, just right now, ask how far away do you have to come so your body says, okay, you can do that far away.
Because my heart's like,
Okay, stop a minute. Stop,
okay.
because it's totally normal, Zor.
Mhm.
Because so let's see, what do you think? Let's just see. Can you put on lipstick?
Yeah, well, I can do certain things, but at times it's like,
No, but I just want to see, what can you do?
oh, I can do. There are times when my body will be like, and it will ready through my body, and like, it's been 2 years, but it's like overwhelming. This is like.
So stop a minute. Stop.
Mhm.
And can you just take one
Yeah.
finger and
Mhm.
on your lips, around the lips, and listen, you all, just follow me, because that is how you can help yourself or someone else. Now, all the way around your lips. That's it. Take a nice deep breath. Do you have a dog or a horse or a cat?
Oh, I'm dying, but I can't have it where I'm at. But when we get that house, yeah, I want to start with a dog, and I love horses as well. I love all animals, everything that's on this planet. I do love.
Wait, hold on. So
First.
the thing is, have you had a dog or a cat before?
Yes.
Okay, now see, look at me. And everybody, do what she's doing. You're pointing you're working the circle on your lip with a a stiff finger.
Because I'm okay.
Of course, it's normal. So we're all going to easy.
Okay.
So curve your fingers, and now see, I think it will be easier for you if you curve your fingers lightly.
Okay.
Is that okay to put your fingers lightly around, like other fingers? That just use any finger you want. Play around.
Okay.
All of you, play which finger. It doesn't matter which one you use. I'm going to tell you why you're doing this in a minute. Zor, is it Zor?
Laura, yeah.
Can you take your lips, like, is this
Mhm.
okay between the thumb and finger? Look at me. So I'm going to,
Oh.
slow down a little now.
Okay.
Just like 1 1/4, and do a little hum. Everybody hum like a 1 1/4. And move your body a little. See, because when you move your body, and just imagine the breath of the earth. Oh, I can breathe with Mother Earth. Wow. How is that?
That's nice. I mean, I never would have thought of doing this myself, actually.
Now, the reason that
Huh?
you're doing it is that, think about it. The mouth is the closest seat of our emotions. So when you're like, oh, wow. And the fact that it feels nice.
Uh-huh.
So for fear, we have found it. Wow. And then you can play around and like say, okay, lips, what can we do here? How can I move you? And for those of you who like to understand, like, what's behind this, why am I saying this?
Mhm.
I came to this concept with the mouth, first of all, in one of my advanced trainings from an Israeli neurologist in the Feldenkrais training. And what he said, that in a newborn infant, if the mouth has any unusual characteristics or movement, that is a neurological, something's going on neurologically. So I was in San Francisco for that. I went back to Germany where I was living and working, and I had a horse come to me who they said wasn't friendly and like would never reach out and was hard to bridle. And so I had the horse for a week, and what I found, and I'd never thought of this before with horses. This is was about 1978. And so I found she didn't want her mouth touched, and she was really, her chin was really like fixed type, you know, like, and so I just, this is before the circular TTouches actually, but I just like gently moved all around her, just moved her mouth.
I like this.
And just moved the mouth, and you know, and didn't force her. Of course, they tried to force her to take the bit, and just by relieving her mouth like this and getting her so that I could go in and just move it a little, I was able to get her over the fear, and she accepted the bit. And today we'd actually work the whole body to get over the fear to start with. It wouldn't start where the problem was, but for those of you who are interested, this book I highly recommend, and it is here we go. This book. In the second, when I was told I was crazy by horse
Social.
this is social intelligence, and I can't remember if it was this book or his other book, but in the second chapter by Daniel Goleman of one of the books, he wrote about our taste and smell being connected to the part of the brain that controls our emotions. Think about it. Those who
Makes sense.
And so we've experimented, and some people have had success in reducing their crave for food by doing this. And in one of the studies in my experiments in this book is one of our practitioners or one of our therapists had used that for somebody who had problems with smoking. Emotional response. So anyway, these are things that are. Now, how do you feel now about
It calmed me down. It was like it was very nice. Thank you so much. Like, I will practice that. So would I be correct in assuming that that would be like my first step to start there and maybe progress from there down the rest of my body?
Yes. Lindsay, can you do this?
Oh, I love playing with my hair. Are you kidding? Yes.
The thing is, and you can all try this hair slides, and normally I have to, I take a little piece just for pain. I discovered the hair slides working on the wife of the ambassador to Tunisia in Moscow, Russia, when there was no medication that would affect the pain that she was having on her back at all. And she was so tight everywhere and so afraid of being touched anywhere. And she had hair down to her waist, and I just took this hair and did the slides all over the head. What I discovered years later was that the head, you can touch the head all over, and the head has connections to the whole body, just like your hands. There's, in our classes, we use a body chart, chart that shows what part of your hand you can touch.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. I would love to learn more, but you have a lot more to teach, and there's a lot of people here, so I'll be quiet. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Bless you.
We learn from each other. Now, I'd just like to know, Lynn, I'm so happy to see you. I wish you could speak. I would like to know if there are any questions about what I just did and said with Zohar, because our cells hold the theory wall. It can hold them for your entire life, and you can release your fear yourself. This is our experience. And the ear, so we're just getting started. The ear TTouch is a way when you have severe indigestion, when you have shock from an injury. This work that I'm doing here, like this on my ears, just try it on yourselves. Put your thumb behind your ear, reach with your forefinger, and really pay attention, because most people's tendency is to go downward. Don't do it. It's a downer energy-wise. Just breathe. Now, right in this part here of the ear, that connects to your whole head. And you can Google this anywhere and find it on ear charts. Right, you see where my finger is in that little bowl of the ear, and my thumb is like holding between. That is where the lungs and the heart connect from the oh God. Let's see. I just lost the word. It's the whole. It'll come to me in a moment. Anyway, it's a part of our whole beautiful system that connects to our heart, our lungs, and our whole abdominal area. And that's why it works there when you just do this little slide and just a little lift, and then you come out over the rim of the ear. This is so funny. I don't have the word yet. Now, when you come right in the middle of the ear here, feel with your thumb behind, and you'll feel, most of you, not everybody, but most of you will feel a little indentation. It's a little tiny divot. And that is where the trigeminal nerve comes in. And that affects your whole jaw, your teeth, your nose, your smell, your eyes, and it comes up here. So, and of course your ears. And if you do this, just follow this very, very gently. We've had people be able to improve their ability to hear. For instance, I had it for a while because I had an infection, and I could not differentiate voices who was speaking in a big classroom with a bunch of dogs. And by doing this gentle work here, that really seemed to clear the eustachian tube. Not exactly the right word, but so these ears. Zoar, can you do this very gently? Now, I want to actually, Toby and Yona, since you've already spoken, can you take your hands down? I'm trying to see everybody here. I want to tell you a really, well, first of all, I want to see if there are questions. Is this?
And somebody did ask about the vagus nerve, a couple of people.
Oh,
They
it's the
didn't.
Vegas. That's what I was trying, but that's what I was trying to remember. It's the Vegas, and it's not just it's a system. You know what, in our classes we call the Vegas system, because it kind of comes into here. We can really affect the whole heart, lungs, the whole abdominal area, the whole intestinal area. And for your long haul COVID, this is one of the most important things that you can do. And that's what I showed in the, just like this, slightly upward. So I want to give you one other thing, and this can save lives. And we have many cases, and we've had so many cases that we were asked a few years ago for the Swiss International Red Cross if we would write something. And oh, Marnie, I just found it. We actually have a card that what you can do if you're in an emergency situation where you cannot get medical help, you can save a life. You can start your heart, bring you out of shock, or take you out of shock. And it's like, I know it works. We know that it works. And you can't hurt. That's one of the interesting things. And when you're alone, you're out on the trail or with your dog or your horse somewhere, and you have a really bad accident, work your ears like this to bring you out of shock or keep you out of shock. Same thing goes with your horses and your dogs. That's how I started, because of my horse, which broke her 4-day impaction, and we didn't put her down. So, oops, I'm going back here to the gallery. So,
Linda, Nancy Perry has a question. Are you moving the skin of the ears, or are you moving the whole ear?
oh, really good question. Thank you, Debbie. And I want to introduce you. Debbie, I saw you came in a little while ago. Debbie Potts is one of our brilliant and amazing instructors who's been taking this work around the world and teaches in China and more than 20 years in Japan, and just for horses, dogs, and people. So what I'm doing, it's not the ear I'm moving. Oops, let me go back and show you what it would look like if I move the ear. If I move the ear, that's one thing. I'm affecting these different, addressing, speaking to, connecting with these very particular, each part of the ear that I'm touching has a connection to a different part of the body. The fetus in the ear is formed like head is here, it's upside down, and the feet are up here. So lungs right in this area, lungs and heart. So you must still have a big question.
Oh yeah, there's a gazillion things I want to say, but I wanted to say something, hopefully to be beneficial to people dealing with acute labels, and in my case, my long haul. But you know, I had the most powerful experience working with the ears, and from that point, it prompted me to then study more about ears, and I became an ear reflexologist. But when I was having extreme burning pains throughout my body, I worked on my ears and I did the vagus protocols in the ears. And I'm telling you, the pain in about 5 minutes was reduced substantially, I would say about 95%, and enabled me to go to sleep. And the ears, for anything acute going on in the body, this is the thing to work with. It's so incredible. So everything you're saying, I'm just like, yeah. So I just wanted to say that, because if anybody out there is having an acute label, work with your ears. I cannot say enough about that.
Yep.
Linda, I did post a link for your COVID video.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah,
great.
I put it in the chat if people are
on-
interested. Yeah,
On
okay.
YouTube. Naomi, hi. Naomi is also one of our practitioners for horses since years. Speak, Naomi. Your hand is up. Are you searching for your?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to chime in on the earwork. I was riding once in California by myself, and I was used to riding in Idaho where there aren't any trees you have to tuck under. And so there were lots of oaks with limbs across the trail. And I was looking down for rocks and paying attention to the trail and not the trees. And so at a trot, I hit this limb. I had a helmet on, but it hit me in the forehead. And I could feel myself going into shock. Like, it's a really weird feeling, but I knew I was losing it. And I reached up one of my hands from the reins and worked my ear, and really, really well. And I could feel myself coming back. It was because there wasn't anybody there to help me or anything like that. So it was really profound. I just want to share that with everybody.
Well, it's so important because you're not in a situation where you need help now in that instant. And it's just amazing. I mean, the number of heart attacks that we've had. I remember in one of the classes in Hawaii, the last thing I said at the end of a 6-day training, just before everybody left, I said, "Oh, I forgot to, really emphasize this ear TTouch in case, ever in a situation where a person has a heart attack when their heart stops, because you can start it." And Marnie, please call me after, because I've got to find, we already have a card that was put out for clients of a Canadian, German who ran these extreme, experiences in the North Woods of Canada. And there's no possibility by helicopter, there's no possibility for help. And if anybody gets injured or has, any kind of problem, they can help with this. It, as you say, Nancy, it's really important for acute situations. So Naomi, thank you. That's a really good one. Nancy? Lane?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, hi. I have a question about the 1 1/4 turn. So if I have a part of the body and I'm massaging it, I want to go 1 1/4. Say I start at 6, and I go back around past 6 up to 9. That's 1 1/4. How do I continue doing that, or do I stop and go back to 6 again and start?
Really good question. So from the studies we did with biofeedback, what we discovered is that when you do 1 circle and a quarter,
Yeah.
and there are, and it's not, it will do nothing for you if you just rub your face. You have to catch the skin. And you can catch it with any part of your hand. It doesn't matter. Whatever you can, you wouldn't use these parts I'm using, but it doesn't have to be the pads of your fingers. We have like more than 25 different parts of the hands that we have given animal names to, and so that we understand which part of the hand you're using. So the thing is, it's 1 1/4. Take a deep breath in many cases, and this is just like a nice 2-second circle with a pause, and staying really present. Now, yeah, and let me see you do it. Speak so I can get you on the big picture so I can see.
Okay. So I go 1 1/4.
Okay, so
And then how do I keep going, or?
watch. So do it again. Now,
Now, do I pick my fingers up and start at the beginning again? Okay.
You do a collection, all of you try it, a collection of 1 1/4 circles.
Oh, so you do it all.
In the direction that you prefer. You might prefer it the other way. Try it. It might change.
Okay.
Now, can you look at my hand? Look at you all. Do you see you're moving your whole hand? Look what happens when I connect with my thumb and I move my fingers. You see, look, all of you, try this on your, or those I can see. Do you see how your fingers open and close.
Mhm.
Now, did you notice that you stopped breathing?
Yes. No, I didn't notice
Always
until you
do.
mentioned it. Now I'm like, yes, I noticed it.
So Nancy, everybody does that when we focus. And like, this is a practice. You know, it looks really simple, but it's not necessarily easy
Yeah.
because there are these, it all makes a difference. The light, the pressure, the tempo, the serotonin activation of your gratitude. Gratitude is really important. Now, if you are interested in this, what I can offer you every Tuesday, I do a 2-hour session with this. And one time a month on Saturdays, or usually on Saturdays, Eleanor Silverstein and I do a 3-hour session. And it costs, so it's like 11 hours for $87. And it used to be that we had you sign up, you know, for a year, but or sometimes 3 or 6 months. This is an ongoing class, and each person who comes in brings another question, brings more necessity to experience this kind of touch on themselves. So Marnie, I think I can take 2 more questions and then I've got to end this. Let's see.
Linda, I'm wondering, you were talking a lot about ears for, emergency situations, but I think about it also for stomach ache or headache or anything that takes your body out of balance. I think it can just be such a valuable tool for, a lot of different things that may be going on in your body.
Absolutely, and it's good to repeat it because it was already said once, but you know, it was you, Debbie Ponce, who I think alerted me to this concept years ago, that it said that we retain 7% of what we hear. So that means you have to hear it over and over and really experience this.
And I apologize for missing the first hour. I didn't get here in the beginning, so I'll have to watch the recording.
No, you know it all, but it's really interesting. So I'm just going to click down and see if we have any. Ansha, hi. I didn't say hi when you came in. I always love seeing you. Okay.
There was a question about whether you work on the right or left ear.
It's
as opposed to both ears, I suppose, too.
Oh, you mean at a time? Or no, we work on both ears. Hi, Jane.
Does it make a difference if you work on the right or left ear? That's April's question.
I have no idea. I don't know. Never, I work both ears. So, and the thing is, if you have a headache, as Debbie said, you can stop a migraine with very like 1 or 2 pressure TTouches, very gently. And I usually work around the ear lobe because that's the part that connects to our head. And so I work one ear and then the other. And because I don't stay on one ear, I'll work back and forth for 2 reasons. One, if you're working on someone else, I think it's helpful to change ears. And I also think for myself, if I'm working on my TTouching myself, then my arm will get tired. So that's why I switch back and forth. And that's a really, really valuable question, because how would you know? Thank you. Are there any other big questions like that, Marnie, or?
Well, somebody did ask if we're going to be doing this again.
I'll probably, I've got quite a few lined up before I go to Europe in March. So probably when we get back, but I really recommend that you join the community. If, I'm trying to read the chat. So, or join us for a month in one of our classes. You can sign up anytime. and just sign up for the 1 month for $89. That's pretty cheap. If you get 11 hours, like less than $8 an hour.
I was also going to say that Silver said that all this collective energy and using TTouch has stopped her headache. Thank you.
Yes, I hope you were doing these 1 1/4 circles. The thing that is magic about it, it's really interesting, like years and years ago. It's been about 18 years now. In Germany, we had a young man who was a savant in the autistic spectrum, and he was for a weekend TTouch for you for self-help. And what he said is that, which we never thought about at all. He said, asked us, do we realize that this 1 1/4 circle is that golden spiral, that golden cut that is in all of nature and in our DNA. So it's this 1 1/4 and then stop and moving to another place. We have different ways of moving from one TTouch to the other. It depends what's going on. But Nancy, thank you for that question. Any others? Marnie, can you, I always forget, we have a rather complicated URL to look at the information for the TTouch for you. God, can somebody, Debbie,
I'm
can
gonna, I was just going to make it real simple and to email Kirsten.
Yeah, they can, but it would be nice because they can read it also if we,
Well,
because it's a whole, a whole lot of information about what you get. But it's so long, I can't remember it. It's really terrible, you all. I just asked Kirsten, send me this thing. So I don't know. So, all right, give them Kirsten's. And you know what? If you could see if you can find it on our website at TTouch.com, Marnie, well, I'm going to take one more question so we can sign up. That would be great. So in the chat, or do you have anybody else wants to pop in one more question? Or not a question necessarily, an experience that you've had with TTouch, actually. That's great.
Debbie said something I thought was really great in the chat. I think you should say it, Debbie.
I just wanted to remind everybody that with the ear, everything in our body is connected to everything else, and all of your cells talk to each other. And so be careful about getting too focused on one point in the ear. I think the charts can be interesting, but if you're only working on, this one point, you might miss the fact that there are other contributing parts of the body that could be really helpful. So that's the reason we have it, we often work on the whole ear, because we're wanting to support the body as a whole and all of the parts supporting each other.
Well, that is really important, but in the ear, if you're in any kind of emergency or you've got indigestion, you work the entire ear, 4 circles and slides. So I'm getting the entire body. It's only in cases of migraines. I just had this experience a couple, just before COVID, of having a facial, and man, I'd had it from this woman before and she didn't look good. It wasn't in a salon. She's just one person having her own room doing this. And I said, are you okay? And she said, oh, I've had this terrible migraine for like 3 days, but I have to work. I said, just let me do a couple of minutes. And I literally did just the tiniest bit around, and very gently, like you want to like barely move anything, because to move is so painful with the migraine. So I just like worked all here, and in that case I'd never do a slide with a migraine, is my experience. So just very, very gently work around, and as Debbie said, you just find like different places, but my focus was right here in this Because, yeah,
Say that, and the thing that you're always reminding us, Linda, is be sure and include the edges. You know, sometimes it's easy to get to the close to the end of your ear and forget to roll around to the edge, and all those points along the edges are important as well. So, you know, really
Yeah.
to, you know, pay attention to all the little, I'm sure Linda talked about this earlier. I'm sorry, I couldn't get here sooner. But you know, really, you know, be present with your ear and pay attention to all those little parts.
well, and the thing is, when you come over the edge of the ear, the rim, this, like, I've worked twice with terrible, terrible malaria and just focused mostly on the rim. The thumb is behind, and I have no idea why I did that. But the one person who was in the hospital was a brother of a friend of mine. They thought he was going to die. And I did 2 hours of work on his ears. Of course, I would have gone in sometimes into this other part, but for some reason in that case, I really focused on the other. Maybe our person who is a specialist in this. It was acupuncture, not ear TTouch. So thank you all. Jana, did you have another comment or?
Well, there's a couple things. First of all, I wanted to ask you a question. Have you ever worked with anybody that has a distortion of smell in terms of, well, the technical name is called hyperosmia? And if so, how did you address that? Were you working with the ears? Were you working with the cranium? Were you working with circles on the face or the tongue?
So I haven't, and describe it.
So hyperosmia is basically a distortion of taste and smell. It's, well, smell actually. It's one of the things that's happening in long haul. Usually people think of long haul as loss of taste and smell, but there's the other side of the spectrum. So in my case, I have hyperosmia, which is a hypersensitivity to smell. And it's awful. And so I'm doing all kinds of things with my ears and face and cranium. And I'm wondering if you've ever.
No, but I'll tell you what I'll tell you
Yeah.
what I did. Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you would like to join us on a Tuesday, we would lead you to look at this picture again. Oops, I'm going to get, and I'll tell you why. Is I would work the entire body, different parts, reminding our bodies, ourselves, of the parts that are working well and focusing on that. Focusing on, wait a minute, yes, I have this thing that's making me nuts, but wait a minute, and just start working with gratitude on the parts that do the work. And because think about it, I don't know what I would do there. I would just start everywhere, just like breathing. Now, the smile is really important. The really light contact to develop that trust of yourself again. Because when your body doesn't function, you're not in a place of trust.
And circles on the tongue also.
Everywhere. Yeah, I mean, ears, but the whole body. Start with the whole body. Start away from what you feel is the problem.
Right.
And gratitude overrides fear, because this is a really fearful situation. You don't know what it's going to take to get over it. This is why I'm surrounded by these angels, you all. This is not a joke. We call this place Angel's Landing, and we have a really big angel up in the living room, a bust from an angel. And the thing is, we all have guardian angels, you all. And if we think that we are the cat's meow and control all this,
No.
situations that need to, I want to read you this. This is short, and this happened last week. And it has to do with angels because I had on Tuesdays, I often lead people into a guided journey into a sacred forest where we, and in this case, I called in all of the circle of guardian angels, plus all their animals who were there with them. And this is what happened after that. As you, some of you know, I had a stroke some years ago, and this is written actually by a doctor who's now semi-retired. After about a year after I got out of the hospital and rehab, I thought I was having another stroke, and I went to the ER. Because I came in under my own steam, the receptionist decided I wasn't having a stroke. After I sat there waiting for an hour and a half, I just went home, but it was scary. Yesterday, I was in my barn and I suddenly felt an intense pain inside my head, very focused. My eyes started having all kinds of sparkly things erupting, and I was very afraid that I was having another stroke. I couldn't make that terrible feeling go away, so I came back from the barn into the house. Before I had left the house, I was watching YouTube on animal videos. If you know YouTube, they have algorithms where once you're watching something, they offer other types of the same thing, but that were completely unrelated to what I was experiencing. That's what happened when she, and I sat down on the couch while I was pondering if I should call an ambulance. And suddenly I felt the presence of my guardian angel taking the clicker. I swear to God, and click, click the clicker down the road to show me a video called What Are Ocular Migraines? Oh, wow. Even as a doctor, I had not heard of ocular migraines. I didn't know anybody who had ocular migraines. I didn't know what they were, and there was nothing in the progression of the other YouTube videos to suggest ocular migraines. It just popped in because my angel thought, okay, you need to see this one. So I played it, and it was a woman who is an eye specialist, a surgeon, and she explained all about it. She had them for years. She showed pictures from the inside of your eye of what it looked like, which was exactly what I was going through. I ticked off every box of every experience she talked about. I calmed right down and did not call an ambulance. She talked about the trigeminal nerve, cranial nerve 5. So I started working on myself with TTouch on both sides of my head and face where the trigeminal nerve comes in. That's in that little divot in the back of the ear right here. The pain started fading. The twinkles and sparkles went away, and I fell asleep for about 3 hours, and I woke up wrung out. When I woke up, I was planning to work on my ears with TTouch because of the connection in our ears to the trigeminal nerve. But I couldn't because my ears were burning hot and so painful to even the lightest TTouch. It was as if they had been singed. So I brought in some of what you teach, Linda. I went, okay, I will use my invisible hands to touch my ears, and imagine they were made of light, her hands made of light, because I can't use my big fat fumble fingers. And I saw myself working my ears ever so lightly and in a way that didn't hurt. And that's the big thing we talked about before. The only time I work on my body when it hurts is if it's a good hurt. After you've, gone in and gotten the trust of your body. Sometimes, like I said, in my arm, I was using like a 6 and it hurt, but I don't know if any of you know what I'm talking about. It's like, yes, really, wow. And after about, like I said before, the whole thing took 3 minutes to get rid of that pain. It didn't hurt, and then I backed off again. So first one side of my ears, and gradually I went to the other side. By the time I came back to the first side, I could take my ear with my real fingers and touch them with no pain. None. It's so much fun. Oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? Get quiet when that happens to you. Get quiet and ask to be told. And when you will get a hunch, trust the hunch. I'm not one who uses the words coincidence or lucky or chance anymore. This was definitely divine intervention. That's my experience with my guardian angel. If you're not used to your guardian angels, we all have them. And, you know, ask for help, pray for help. Really works.
Thank you,
So,
Linda.
my pleasure. And it really is about the hardest thing is to forgive yourself. And that's a big part of this TTouch. And we use for me, I am just such a fan of Ulrich Dupre. And he's coming out with a new book. And actually, I'm going to be doing a book club with his book. The new one. This is his first one. And he's just such a wonderful human being. But the hardest part, you all, of forgiveness is saying, I love you. And when you recognize the intelligence and the amazing source in every cell in your body, that's what you can dare to love. Because most people in the beginning, they don't love their ego selves. They definitely can learn to love their godlike selves. Blessings, you all. Marnie, did you find that the what do you call it? The URL? Oh, she didn't. I guess I should have let you talk more.
Um,
And I
or
could-
for which one? I thought I'm confused. Which you need the URL for?
TTouch
which
for
one?
you. It's TTouch.
Okay, J. Cole did post that. I thought you.
Which one is it?
Well, I don't know if it's one. It's TTouch.com/our method for TTouch for you. It's
What?
got slashes in it.
What
At
the-
TTouch.com, it's bouncing around because people are doing the chat. TTouch.com/our-method-4
No, I have
slash
no idea where that comes from.
TTouch. Well, I thought it was.
Sorry, I mean, I want to see that. That's pretty interesting. Who posted
Well,
that?
I thought maybe it was. I don't
No, it's
know.
not. Pam has got it.
Okay.
Thanks, Pam.
Yeah, if you go to TTouch.com, go to the menu, and then you can scroll down to what you want, and it'll give you more information. But I also wonder if just emailing Kirsten might give you some more of the particulars as well.
I'm sorry, this is just ridiculous. Okay, that we can't find this easily.
Well, it is pretty
Let
easy.
me- Well, yeah, go to, I'll give it.
Are you talking about the TTouch.ca?
No, I'm not. Sorry,
Oh,
Marnie.
okay, all right, okay.
I'm sorry, I
But
wasn't, as that's how you can join the community. And just let me think here a second. How do I get to my own website? Come on. So we just go to, you can go www.ttouch.com. And then as Pam said, you go to the menu on the top. And I just looked at this and I should have written down, it's just a little complicated. And in the middle is TTouch for you. And then events and registration. And we are about to change this because it's a little confusing. Oh, this is not what I want. Okay, sorry. That's why I said we have to change this. I don't believe.
Could we send, when you send out the thing for replay, could we include that on that email?
Yes, thank you. So we're about to change that. I said, please don't send them there, just send them to the one thing. Anyway.
Okay, yeah, it is a little bit confusing.
Pam,
But-
actually, if you just click on each one of them, on one of them, it's like ttouchforyou.com/. That's what I always forget. No, it's TTouch for self-care dot whatever.
We'll send it out. Come on.
Thank you, guys. Okay, I think we're all okay. So what I'm trying to do here is let's all end with a heart hug. And please
Linda,
don't- Yeah,
Linda, I just posted it in the chat.
and which one is it, Ellen?
This is the one that goes directly to your website where for the monthly
Oh,
meet.
thank you so much.
Mhm.
What is it? Just so I can maybe remember.
It's TTouchForYouOnline.com/inspiring, not slash, what's the other one? Dash,
Yeah.
dash self dash care.
Dash self dash care. That's why it's so complicated, isn't it? I forgot the online part too. Thank you all. Well, we have to have something to laugh about, right? Let's end with a heart hug. And I would just love to do it in the gentlest way, activating the most trust in yourself, in your ability to help yourself and to help your animals, or those of you who work with people, working with other people. And for those of you who are therapists, what we're doing in my class, the Tuesday classes, I did a video last year showing on a person like all of the TTouches and the feedback that we get, because asking for feedback is one of the really important 9th elements. So I'm giving thanks for having this time with you all, and for all of you who are sharing this workout in the world and using it for yourselves. And it's so cool to think that we can help ourselves and make a difference in the world just by realizing that every thought we have, every feeling, every emotion, and every belief, that when we recognize and we choose the positive by using gratitude and just giving thanks. Join me every night in counting your blessings and send that out into the world. Thank you. Thank you all for your contributions and your questions, and Marnie and Debbie and Pam and all of you who shared. Thanks. Pam, thanks. And much love to you all. Aloha. I'll stop the recording. Have a great day wherever you are.